There is something sleeping inside you, something so vast, so powerful, so ancient, that if you fully understood what it was, nothing would ever frighten you again. Nothing would ever make you feel small again. Nothing would ever make you feel alone again. This something does not have a simple name. Different traditions have pointed at it in different ways. The Hindus called it Shakti, the divine energy that underlies all of creation. The Taoists called it Ti, the power that flows through all living things when they are aligned with the Tao. The Hermeticists called it the divine fire, the same creative intelligence that shaped the cosmos, present and active in every human being who has ever lived. Tonight, we are going to talk about how to wake it up, not as a metaphor, not as a spiritual concept to believe in, as a direct, practical, lived experience. Because this energy, this God energy that has been sleeping inside you, has always been there. It was there when you were born. It was there through every difficult moment of your life. It was there through every moment of joy and beauty and love. It has never left you. It cannot leave you because it is what you are. You have simply forgotten how to feel it. And the forgetting was not accidental. It was the result of a long, slow, gradual process of being shaped by a world that does not know this energy exists, or that has a vested interest in keeping you disconnected from it. Because a human being who is fully connected to this energy is not afraid. And a human being who is not afraid cannot be controlled, cannot be kept small, cannot be told that their worth depends on their productivity, their appearance, their social status, their bank account. A human being who has felt the God energy moving through them knows in the most direct and undeniable way possible that they are already complete, already whole, already enough. And that knowledge changes everything. In the next 40 minutes, we are going to trace this energy through the great wisdom traditions of the world. We are going to look at what it actually is, where it lives in the body, why it gets suppressed, and what specific practices the ancient traditions developed to reawaken it. We are going to draw on the Vedic understanding of prana and kundalini, the Taoist understanding of chi and the three treasures, the Egyptian understanding of sekhem and the ka, the Hermetic understanding of the divine fire, and the emerging science of bioelectromagnetism that is beginning to provide a physical framework for what the ancient teachers described. And we are going to do something practical tonight, something you can take with you when this video ends, a practice simple enough to do anywhere, powerful enough to begin shifting your relationship with this energy immediately. Are you with me? Then let us begin. Before we talk about activation, we need to understand what we are actually talking about. Because the concept of a life force energy, a fundamental animating power that flows through living beings, is one of the most universally recognized phenomena in human history. Every major civilization that has ever existed on this planet has named it, described it, worked with it. In ancient India, they called it prana. Prana is often translated as breath, but this is only a partial translation. Prana is the energy that the breath carries, the vital force that animates matter, the invisible power that distinguishes a living body from a dead one. When two bodies lie side by side, one alive and one not, their chemical composition is nearly identical. The atoms are the same, the molecules are the same, and yet one is animated, responsive, present, and the other is not. What is the difference? The ancient teachers said, prana, the life force has departed. The Vedic tradition describes prana as flowing through the body through a network of channels called nadis, of which there are said to be 72,000 channels of energy running through the subtle body, carrying prana to every cell, every organ, every thought, every emotion. When prana flows freely through these channels, there is health, vitality, clarity, joy, a quality of aliveness that is unmistakable, the feeling of being fully present, fully here, engaged with life rather than merely enduring it. When prana is blocked, constricted, or depleted, there is illness, fatigue, confusion, and the dull sense that something is missing, that something vital has gone out of life, even when externally nothing has changed. In ancient China, they call this same energy qi or qi. The entire system of Chinese medicine, acupuncture, tai chi, qigong, feng shui, is built around the understanding that this energy exists, that it flows through specific pathways in the body called meridians, and that health is fundamentally a question of whether this energy is flowing freely or not. Chinese medicine is not a primitive or pre-scientific system. It is an extraordinarily sophisticated technology, developed over thousands of years of careful observation of the relationship between energy flow and physical health. Acupuncture has been practiced for at least 2,500 years, and modern research has confirmed its effectiveness for a wide range of conditions, including chronic pain, anxiety, depression, and many others, not because acupuncture needles deliver medicine, but because they restore the flow of qi through the meridians. The energy moves and the body heals. In ancient Egypt, the priests of the mystery schools worked with what they called the sekhem, the divine power, the life force that animated both the physical world and the spiritual dimensions of the human being. Sekhem was understood as the energy of creation itself, the force through which the divine brought the physical world into being, and the same force that animated every human being. The healing arts of ancient Egypt, the temple rituals, the initiatic practices, the magical operations, were all oriented toward the cultivation, purification, and expansion of sekhem. An Egyptian healer did not primarily work with herbs or surgery. Though these were used, they worked with energy, with the sekhem of the patient, identifying where it was blocked, depleted, or corrupted, and working to restore its natural flow. In the Hermetic tradition, this energy was called the astral light, or the divine fire, a subtle substance that permeated all of creation, the medium through which consciousness expressed itself in the physical world. Paracelsus, the great Renaissance physician and hermeticist, described it as the vital force, the invisible power that animated all living things, and that could be cultivated, directed, and used consciously by those who understood its nature. He understood that healing was fundamentally an energetic process, and that the physician's role was to support and restore the natural flow of this force, rather than to impose external interventions on a passive body. Different names, different cosmological frameworks, but the same recognition. There is something here, in the body, in the subtle energy field surrounding the body. That is more than chemistry. more than electrical signals, more than anything that modern biology has fully mapped. And modern science is beginning to catch up. The human body generates measurable electromagnetic fields. The heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field of any organ in the body, a field that extends several feet beyond the physical body, and that can be detected by sensitive instruments placed several feet away. The HeartMath Institute, a research organisation that has spent decades studying the physiology of emotion, has demonstrated that the electromagnetic field of the heart changes dramatically based on the emotional state of the person. States of coherence, of love, gratitude, appreciation produce an ordered, harmonious electromagnetic field, a field in which the different frequencies move together, in phase, in rhythm, like musicians playing in tune. States of fear, anger, anxiety, frustration produce a chaotic, disordered field, a field in which the different frequencies are fighting each other, incoherent, scattered, draining. And here is the remarkable part. This field is not contained within the body. It extends outward and can influence the physiology of other people, even when those people have no conscious awareness of what the first person is feeling. Your energy field affects the people around you, and the people around you affect yours. This is not metaphysics. This is measurable, reproducible, peer-reviewed science. The ancient teachers who described the human energy field, who talked about the aura, the subtle body, the emanations of the heart, were not speaking in metaphor. They were describing something real, something that instrumentation is now beginning to verify. So if this energy is real, why don't most people feel it? Why does this God energy sleep, rather than pulsing actively through every moment of ordinary life? The answer is both simple and profound. Suppression. From the earliest days of childhood, the natural flow of this energy begins to be constricted, not through malice, not through conspiracy, but through the ordinary mechanisms of social conditioning. When you were a child, you felt everything fully. Joy was total, grief was total, wonder was total, anger was total. The energy moved through you without restriction, because you had not yet learned to suppress it. You cried when you were sad, without worrying whether it was appropriate. You laughed until your whole body shook, without monitoring how you appeared. You were curious about everything, without the filter of what was acceptable to be curious about. You were fully alive, but you were taught through 1,000 small corrections and disapprovals that certain feelings were not acceptable, that certain expressions of energy were not appropriate, that certain states of aliveness were too much, too intense, too inconvenient for the adults around you. Stop crying, calm down, be quiet, act your age. And so you learn to constrict, to hold the breath slightly, keeping it shallow and controlled rather than full and free, to tighten the belly where so much emotional energy lives, to narrow the throat, holding back the sounds that wanted to come out, to keep the energy contained within acceptable limits. And over time, these patterns of constriction became habitual, became invisible, became the background condition of ordinary life. Most adults carry chronic muscular tension throughout their bodies, tension they are not even aware of. That represents decades of accumulated suppression, tension in the jaw, the shoulders, the chest, the belly, the hips, a body that has been slowly armoring itself, against the full flow of its own life force. The energy did not disappear, it was always there, pressing against its own containment, expressing itself in anxiety, in restlessness, in irritability, in the vague but persistent sense that something vital is missing, in the compulsive reaching for stimulation, food, screens, substances, activity, anything to fill the space where the life force should be flowing freely. This is what Wilhelm Reich called character armor. The chronic muscular and energetic tensions through which the body holds suppressed life energy, and what every major contemplative tradition has described, in its own language, as the primary obstacle to spiritual realization. The awakening of the God energy is not the acquisition of something you don't have. It is the release of the constrictions that prevent you from feeling what was always already there. In the Vedic tradition, this awakening has a specific name. It is called the rising of Kundalini. Kundalini is described as a coiled serpent of energy, resting at the base of the spine, dormant, waiting, patient. When awakened, it rises through the central channel of the subtle body, the Sushumna, activating each energy center, each chakra as it ascends, the root chakra at the base of the spine, governing survival, safety, and the sense of being grounded in physical existence. The sacral chakra, governing creativity, sensuality, and the flow of life force through the emotional body. The solar plexus chakra, governing personal power, will, and the sense of individual agency. The heart chakra, the center of love, compassion, and connection. The point where the lower energies of the physical body meet the higher energies of the spiritual dimensions. The throat chakra, governing expression, truth, and the ability to speak what is real. The third eye, governing intuition, inner vision, and the ability to perceive beyond the physical senses. And the crown chakra at the top of the head, the point of connection with the infinite, where individual consciousness opens into universal consciousness. This is not mythology. This is a description, in the symbolic language of the Vedic tradition, of something that meditators and advanced practitioners have consistently reported experiencing across cultures, across centuries, across traditions. A surge of energy rising through the body, an expansion of consciousness, a direct encounter with what feels like the fundamental life force of the universe, moving through a human nervous system. The experience has been described independently by Christian mystics, Sufi masters, Taoist practitioners, shamans from every continent. The details vary. The core experience is consistent. The God energy is real. It can be awakened. And when it is, nothing is the same again. So how do you begin? The first practice, the foundational one, the one that every tradition agrees on, is breath. Not ordinary breathing, conscious breathing. The breath is the primary regulator of prana, of chi, of life force energy in the body. When the breath is shallow and restricted, as it is for most people in the state of chronic low-level stress that characterizes ordinary modern life, the flow of energy through the body is correspondingly restricted. When the breath deepens, when it becomes full, slow, conscious, the energy begins to move. Right now, try this. Breathe in slowly through the nose. Let the belly expand first, then the chest, then the upper chest. A full, complete breath that fills the lungs from bottom to top, Hold for just a moment at the top. Feel the fullness, the aliveness, the subtle charge in the body, and release slowly through the mouth. Let the breath go completely until the lungs are empty, and then a moment more, squeezing out the last residue. Again, feel the difference in your body. Feel the subtle shift in the quality of your aliveness. That is prana moving. That is the God energy. Responding to your conscious invitation. Do this every morning for 5 minutes, before you look at your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you engage with the demands of the day. Just 5 minutes of conscious breathing, and pay attention to what begins to shift. The second practice is stillness. Not the stillness of collapse or exhaustion, but the stillness of conscious presence. The energy that we are trying to activate is not something that can be forced or manufactured. It cannot be grabbed or achieved. It responds to invitation, to spaciousness, to the quality of open, receptive awareness. When you sit still, when you stop doing, striving, planning, worrying, and simply allow yourself to be present, the energy begins to move on its own. This is why every major tradition has some form of meditation or contemplative practice at its core. Not because sitting still is inherently valuable, but because stillness creates the conditions in which the deeper energy can begin to move. The third practice is movement. Conscious, intentional, energy-aware movement. The ancient traditions developed extraordinary systems for working with energy through the body. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, certain forms of dance are all technologies for moving energy through the physical body, dissolving blockages, opening channels, expanding a field. If you have never practiced Tai Chi or Qigong, I encourage you to find a teacher or even a simple online practice. Even 10 minutes of slow, conscious movement in the morning, with attention on the flow of energy through the body, can begin to shift the relationship with the life force in profound ways. The fourth practice is gratitude. This may seem too simple, but the research on the electromagnetic effects of emotional states suggests that gratitude, genuine, felt, embodied gratitude, produces a more coherent and expansive energy field than almost any other state. And the ancient traditions agree. The Sufi mystics describe gratitude as the highest form of prayer. The Vedic tradition describes it as the natural expression of the awakened heart. The Hermetic tradition describes it as the emotion that most closely aligns the human being with the divine. When you feel genuine gratitude, not as a mental exercise, but as a felt experience in the body, the energy field expands, the constrictions soften, the channels open, and the God energy that has been sleeping begins to stir. You do not need to wait for perfect conditions to begin this practice. You do not need to be in a special place, or have a certain amount of time, or feel particularly spiritual. You only need to be willing to feel, to actually feel, not to think about feeling, not to plan to feel later, but to stop right now, in this moment, and notice what is actually present in the body. The warmth of the air, the weight of the body in the chair, the rise and fall of the breath, the subtle hum of aliveness. That is always present, if you stop long enough to notice it. That hum, that subtle, persistent background aliveness is the God energy, always present, always available, waiting only for your attention. Subscribe to Sacred Flame, because this exploration goes deeper with every video. The practices, the teachings, the maps of the inner territory all of it, together. Until next time, breathe deeply, be still, move consciously, and feel the fire that has been waiting inside you all along. There is something I want to address directly, something that comes up for almost everyone when they first encounter these ideas, the feeling that they are too far gone, that they have been disconnected from this energy for too long, that they have too much anxiety, too much trauma, too many years of suppression for the awakening to be possible for them. I want to address this directly because it is not true. The God energy cannot be permanently damaged. It cannot be destroyed by trauma, by years of disconnection, by addiction, by abuse, by any of the experiences. That can make a human life feel small and diminished. It is not fragile. It is not conditional. It is the ground of your being, and the ground of your being cannot be taken from you. What can happen? What does happen in most human lives is that the channels through which the energy moves become constricted, the armoring builds up, the suppression accumulates, and the energy, unable to flow freely, pools, stagnates, or turns inward in ways that are not healthy. But the energy itself remains intact, whole, waiting. The work of awakening is not the work of creating something new. It is the work of removing what is in the way, dissolving the armor, opening the channels, allowing what was always there to begin moving again. This work takes time. It takes patience. It takes a willingness to feel things that may have been unfelt for a long time, because the energy that comes through as the channels open does not arrive only as bliss and light. Sometimes it arrives as grief, old grief that was never fully felt, that has been waiting in the body for years or decades. Sometimes it arrives as anger, healthy anger at what was taken from you, at what you were not given, at the ways you were taught to be less than what you are. Sometimes it arrives as fear, the fear that was underneath the suppression all along, now finally surfacing to be seen and released. This is not a problem. This is the healing, the energy moving through the body, moving through the old frozen places, melting them, restoring flow, is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Your job in the moments when this happens is not to suppress it again. Your job is to breathe, to stay present, to allow the feeling to move through without collapsing into it and without pushing it away. Just breathing, just feeling, just letting the energy do what it came to do. This is the practice, not the exotic or the dramatic, but the patient, consistent, courageous willingness to feel, to actually feel your own life. The ancient Taoist tradition describes three treasures, three fundamental energies that the human being is endowed with, and that can be cultivated through practice. The first is Jing, often translated as essence, the fundamental vital substance of the body, the raw material of life force. The second is Qi, the vital energy that flows through the body, animating it, warming it, connecting its different parts. The third is Shen, spirit, consciousness, the luminous awareness that is the highest expression of the human being. The Taoist tradition teaches that these three treasures are related, that Jing can be transformed into Qi, and Qi can be transformed into Shen. The practices of Taoist cultivation, Qigong, Tai Chi, inner alchemy, are all oriented towards this transformation, toward the refinement and elevation of energy, from its most material and dense expression to its most subtle and luminous, This is not different from what the Vedic tradition describes, or the Hermetic tradition, or the Egyptian mystery schools. The language is different. The map is the same. There is a spectrum of energy from the most dense and physical to the most subtle and spiritual. And the human being, through practice, through attention, through conscious living, can move along that spectrum, can become more refined, more luminous, more fully an expression of the divine fire that every tradition says is our deepest nature. There is a story I want to share with you, a story from the Sufi tradition that I think captures something essential about what we are talking about. A student came to a great master and asked, "How do I find God?" The master said nothing. He simply took the student to a river, waded in, and held the student's head underwater. The student struggled, fought, panicked. Finally, the master released him. Gasping and sputtering, the student demanded, "What was that?" The master said, "When you want God, the way you just wanted air, you will find him." The God energy that we are talking about is not something you can find through casual interest. It responds to longing, to genuine, deep, embodied longing. Not the longing of the mind that has decided this would be a good idea, but the longing of the whole being that recognizes it has been separated from something essential and wants to return. That longing, if you feel it, is itself the beginning of the awakening, because the longing for the divine fire is the divine fire beginning to feel itself and reaching toward its own source. You do not need to manufacture longing. You do not need to pretend to feel something you do not feel. But if you sit quietly for a few minutes and ask yourself honestly, is there something more that I'm seeking? Is there a quality of aliveness, of presence, of connection that I sense is possible, but that I have not yet found? If the answer is yes, then you already have what you need to begin. That yes is the awakening, stirring. Subscribe to Sacred Flame, because we are going deeper with every video. The practices, the traditions, the direct experiences of those who have walked this path before us. Until next time, breathe, be still, feel, and know that the fire you are looking for is the fire you are made of. Let me take you deeper into something that most conversations about spiritual energy never address. The relationship between the God energy and the ordinary moments of your life, because there is a misconception that can become an obstacle, a belief that the awakening of this energy requires special circumstances, special places, special teachers, special practices, that it happens in meditation retreats, or in the presence of enlightened masters, or through years of dedicated practice in isolated settings. And while all of these can be powerful, they are not the only doorway. The God energy is not reserved for those with the luxury of retreat or the good fortune of having found a great teacher. It is available in the ordinary moments of an ordinary life. It is available right now, in the middle of whatever you are going through, in whatever circumstances you find yourself. Let me give you some examples. The moment you stop in the middle of a busy day and really look at the sky, not the thought of the sky, not the mental category labeled sky, but the actual sky, its color, its depth, its impossible vastness. Something happens in that moment. A slight softening, a brief opening. The energy moves the moment you are with another person, and you stop thinking about what you want to say next, or how you appear, or what they think of you, and you simply look at them, really look, see them, not your story about them, not the role they play in your life, but them, the fact of their existence, the miracle of another consciousness, another wave in the same ocean. Looking back at you, something happens in that moment too, a recognition, a warmth. The energy moves the moment you are in nature and you allow yourself to feel it, not observe it intellectually, but feel it. The aliveness of a tree, the intelligence of water finding its way downhill, the extraordinary fact that this planet, this living system of almost incomprehensible complexity, has been sustaining life for billions of years without any management from us, following laws so elegant and so consistent that every scientist who has ever studied them has eventually been moved to something like awe. In these moments, the energy moves. These are not spiritual experiences reserved for the advanced practitioner. These are ordinary human experiences, available to everyone. In every moment, the difference between someone who lives in contact with the God energy and someone who does not is not the quality of their experiences. It is the quality of their attention. It is whether they are present for what is actually happening, or whether they are elsewhere, in their thoughts, their worries, their plans, their rehearsals of past conversations, and their simulations of future ones. The awakening of the God energy is ultimately the awakening of presence, of the ability to be here, fully, completely, without reservation, here in this body, here in this moment, here in this life, exactly as it is, not as you wish it were, not as it might be in the future, but as it actually is. Because the God energy is not somewhere else. It is not waiting for you to become more spiritual, or more disciplined, or more worthy. It is here, right here, in the breath you are taking now, in the awareness that is receiving these words, in the simple fact of your existence, in this moment, on this planet, in this extraordinary universe. You are already in contact with it. You have always been in contact with it. The only question is whether you are paying attention. Let me leave you with the practice that you can begin right now. Before this video ends, it takes 30 seconds. Put your hand on your chest. Feel the warmth of your own touch. Take one slow breath and feel the breath moving under your hand now, without trying to feel anything in particular, without trying to produce any specific experience. Simply notice what is alive here, under your hand, in your chest, in your body, right now. There is something here, something that was here before you learned your name, something that has been here through every experience of your life, something that will be here long after the last thought dissolves. You can call it the God energy. You can call it prana, chi, sekhem, the divine fire. You can call it life, or you can call it nothing at all, because it does not need a name to be real. It only needs your attention. Give it that, just for this moment, and notice what happens. Subscribe to Sacred Flame, because we are only just beginning. Until next time, keep your hand on your heart, keep your attention on the fire, and remember, the energy you are looking for is the energy you already are. I want to talk about something that rarely gets discussed. In conversations about spiritual energy and awakening, the role of the body, specifically the physical body. In many spiritual traditions, there is a tendency to treat the body as an obstacle, something to be transcended, overcome, or escaped. The body is seen as a source of desire, of suffering, of limitation, and the spiritual path is understood as a movement away from the body, towards something more pure, more subtle, more divine. I want to offer a different perspective, one that is supported by the most ancient and sophisticated of the esoteric traditions, even if it contradicts some of the more ascetic interpretations of those traditions. The body is not an obstacle to the awakening of the God energy. The body is the vehicle through which the God energy expresses itself. The body is the temple, not metaphorically. Actually, the energy wants to move through the body. The body is the instrument through which consciousness plays the music of embodied life. And when the body is healthy, vital, open, and responsive, the music is richer, fuller, more alive. When the body is constricted, tense, depleted, or disconnected, the music is thin, muffled, or absent. This is why the most sophisticated traditions, the Tantric tradition of India, the Taoist tradition of China, the Egyptian initiatic tradition, did not demonize the body. They worked with it. They treated the body with reverence, as a sacred vessel through which the divine expresses itself in the physical world. They developed practices for purifying and strengthening the body, not to punish it or discipline it into submission, but to make it a more refined and responsive instrument for the flow of the divine energy. Yoga, in its original and complete form, is not primarily a fitness practice. It is a technology for preparing the body to receive and conduct the Kundalini energy. Every pose, every breath, every movement is designed to open specific channels, dissolve specific blockages, and prepare the nervous system for the experience of the energy moving through it. Qigong, similarly, is not primarily a health practice. It is a technology for cultivating and refining qi, for developing the ability to feel the energy, direct it, and use it consciously. The Egyptian initiates underwent years of physical purification, diet, fasting, specific exercises, ritual bathing, not as self-punishment, but as preparation, preparing the body to become a clear channel for the sekhem, the divine power, that would move through it during the initiatic ceremonies. The body matters. What you eat matters. How you move matters. How much sleep you get matters. Not because you need to be perfect, or because physical practices alone will awaken the God energy, but because the body is the ground in which this energy moves, and a body that is depleted, inflamed, sedentary, or toxic is a body with constricted channels. A body that is nourished, rested, moved, and cared for is a body with open channels, a body through which the energy can flow more freely. So as you begin this work, as you begin to practice the breathing, the stillness, the movement, the gratitude, also begin to bring more awareness to the body itself. What is it asking for? What does it need to become more alive, more rest, more movement, different food, time in nature, time in silence? Listen to it, not with the critical voice that catalogues its flaws, but with the same reverence you would bring to a sacred instrument that you have been entrusted to care for, because that is what it is, a sacred instrument through which the God energy is trying to express itself in the world. Subscribe to Sacred Flame. Until next time, honor the body, feed the fire, and remember, You're not a spirit trapped in a body. You are a spirit expressed through a body. And that body is holy.